Welcome this 19th of August. This is Utah Valley Oasis. We are a community of good, and our 5 tenets are: people are more important than beliefs, reality is known through reason, meaning comes from making a difference, human hands solve human problems, and be accepted and be accepting. And that is the point of all the activities we do, whether it's a service project or getting together today and discussing topics of interest in our group. If you are interested in presenting anything or running an activity, please let us know. You can reach us at utahvalleyoasis@gmail.com or david.halliday, that's me, at networkoasis.org. Let us know. Let's go ahead and give it up for our musician today, Holly Anderson Roberts.
Thank you. Where did you get that picture of me? That's funny and cute and weird.
I got it on Facebook. I was just looking around like, oh, I need to find one where she's holding her guitar. And then I was like, plants. That's close enough. That's basically a guitar.
I've been holding plants way more than I've held a guitar lately. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, you guys. I appreciate it. And I picked this song really. I wrote this song for my daughter when she was first born, and she was born in the morning, and she was so cute. I I we just of course connected immediately, and I thought she's so beautiful. And then that very night she was falling asleep, and I was like, oh, I thought she was beautiful when she was awake, and now that she's asleep she's even more beautiful. So I wrote this song for her at that time. And I don't want you to think about me and Eowyn. I want you to think about you and that special person, whoever that is, and just get that in your heart, because Meg's going to be talking about relationships. And of course, these feelings are generally the foundations of our relationships. Obviously, they need to be built on, but these are originally, it's these feelings of love for people that even start the relationship in the first place. So, and this is called Smiling in Your Sleep. Let me know if there's anything weird with sound, okay? So I can start again and do whatever. Just let me know. When first I ever saw you, that perfect moment in time, with your eyes all full of sunlight, it's still so clear in my mind. I never thought you could be more lovely than you were to me that day. But I hadn't yet held you in the night when you're dreaming away. When Mother Midnight warms you softly in her darkest embrace, and the silver moon shines down her lovely light on your face, my breath is taken away when I see you dreaming so deep, and when I see you smiling in your sleep. I see a heaven full of wonder, baby, when I look in your eyes. Only heaven knows what you're dreaming after the lullaby. I'd love to fly with you to that heaven, that summer place where you've gone. See what's making you so happy all the night long. When Mother Midnight warms you softly in her darkest embrace, and the silver moon shines down her lovely light on your face, my breath is taken away when I see you dreaming so deep, and when I see you smiling in your sleep. how the night's gone by. I didn't notice when, you lovely angel in the moonlight, how will I ever sleep again? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Holly. Oh, got to unmute my video here. All right. Thank you so much, Holly. We are going to move right on to our speaker here. Let me show the little, my wife created a little visual for today's meeting. Okay. So today's topic will be given by Meg Griffiths. She'll be talking about healthy relationships, intentionally investing. And she has encouraged that everyone please have a notepad or note-taking device ready so you can take notes and make this an active part of your plans for the future. I'm going to go ahead and read a little bio before I pass the mic over to her. So after earning her bachelor's in human development and family life with a minor in civic engagement leadership, Meg Griffiths entered the relationship education world to explore her passion for helping people improve the quality of their interpersonal connections. As a family life educator and relationship coach, she has worked with well over 3,000 youth and adults on topics such as dating, parenting, and marriage. Meg loves life and love. When she is not working towards changing the world, you can find her enjoying nature, trying to save the planet with her slight recycling obsession, or having a solo dance party to keep her occupied during the pandemic. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome to this Oasis meeting, Meg Griffiths.
Hey guys, thank you. Okay, I'm so excited to be here today. If you guys have the capability to put your video on, I want to make this feel as in person as we can. So I love to see your faces and I love interaction. This is a fairly intimate group, and so we will be able to actually get some hopefully good interaction going on. I'd love to have you be involved. And like David said, if you would make sure to have something to write with, we're going to be doing some interactive activities, some self-reflection. So I am Meg. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. My background is in family life, is in human relationships, and I'm really passionate about this particular niche, which is called preventative education. So that's what we're going to kind of be talking about. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. And also I wanted to say first off, thank you so much for the musical number. That was wonderful, beautiful. The sound came through really great. So yep, just to ease your fears maybe on that. And that's such a cool message. We talked a little bit right at the beginning of the meeting of this connection with another human being and the depth of it and the growth of it and the building of it. And so I really appreciated that message. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
So a little bit about specifically what I do. My career, since I've been graduated, I have been working at a program called Healthy Relationships Utah. And I teach classes on different topics such as marriage, parenting, and dating. I've been doing this, I've taught thousands of people. And also I've started a small business doing relationship coaching where I'm using my skills and background to work more individually with people, because there's absolutely a benefit to getting a more workshop classroom setting, but also to actually get into your real life with your personal stuff that's actually going on, I think is so important. So I'm kind of juggling both of those two things, and I love it. because it helps me do what I really love, is hopefully make an impact on the world. Now, there's a little bit of a difference of what I do compared to what maybe what is in the same realm. What people sometimes think that I do is things like therapy. Now, what I do is different than therapy. So therapy is really important work. Therapy and social work, it works hand in hand with my particular niche. And therapy, as we like to call it, is kind of the ambulance in the valley. And so, you know, after there's problems or trauma, this is where we go to get extra help, and it's totally crucial and very needed. Now, basically what I do with preventative education, which is often classes or coaching, looking kind of toward the future, this is what we call the fence on the cliff. If we're thinking of that analogy, is people like me, or people who do work like me, and if you were at last month's meeting with Helen, she very much does this type of preventative education with her nonviolent communication class. This is us building the fence at the top so that we don't fall over the cliff and need the ambulance at the valley. That's really kind of this point, is we want to work upstream rather than just waiting till things get bad. Now, we kind of were chatting at the beginning of this meeting just about, or before it started, just about, you know, why when we learn about everything, you know, we go to school and we learn all these different topics, and, you know, maybe this will actually help us in the long run and maybe these other things won't. Why are we really not learning that much about relationships? So I want kind of to hear from the crowd whether or not you have the ability to give like a thumbs up or like raise your hand or something, or actually if I can see you can raise your hand or go off mute. How many of you remember spending any amount of time on anything like relationships or communication in your schooling, whether that be undergrad or maybe before that? Anybody have any experience with that? Okay, let's hear it. Oh no, we're getting a lot of no's. I'm getting a lot of shaking heads. I've got one yes. I actually knew that. Would you be willing to talk about your experience?
My experience with you came to our class in high school when I was in my adult and financial lit class, and you came and talked to us. It was called "How Not to Fall for a Jerk or Jerkette." And he just talked about healthy relationships, what's not healthy in a relationship, you know, things to look out for and stuff like that. It's been a while, but it was.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're
I feel
doing
like
great.
apply to any relationship really though.
So we made this discovery just the other day that I was this guest speaker. What was your name again?
Renee.
Renee, in Renee's school, teaching a healthy dating class to high schoolers. That's one of the things that I do actively for my job. And this is kind of a newer or more up and coming, Utah has actually a really great program for it. But this isn't something necessarily that we think to seek out until there are problems, right? Well, why would I need to work on my relationships? They'll just magically be good, right? When in any other area of our life, if we want to be good at something, we invest in it. We take time for it. We practice. We like do the research. We do all these things. If we want to succeed in something, we put a lot of time and effort into it. And with our relationships, we cross our fingers. You know, that's kind of what we do. Now, that's not totally true, because you've probably seen on the bookshelves, books on communication, conflict management, and TED Talks, and there are loads of resources. And we have them super accessible. There's classes, and there's some things that are free. There's some things that you can pay for in retreats, and there's all sorts of things. But do we actually invest? Do we take the time to do this? And we're going to talk about, do you have a comment? Oh, go ahead and come off mute for us.
I think part of the problem is that people think they already know how to do it, and they don't. Like the other day, I was talking to somebody on Facebook who was suggesting that they don't know the importance of words, so they talk all the time, so they just assume that what they say is coherent. And I'm like, no, if you haven't thought out your words carefully, then you're incoherent. and just because you talk all the time doesn't mean you know how to talk. So, and people think that about relationships. They're like, well, I'm in relationships, and so they think they know how to do it, but they don't.
Okay, that's super true. And so we maybe even kind of go about our lives a little bit blindly, thinking that, you know, these are just going to happen and it's going to be healthy because that's how life is. But we don't actually know that maybe what we're doing is or has hurt someone. We don't necessarily know the best skills or the best practices. And this is my degree, and this is my field, and this is my career. And I'm constantly learning how to do things a little bit differently and tweak the way I do things to better my relationships. It's not like I do this perfectly because it's my field. Now think about all the hours and hours of time I've put into this, and I'm still learning and growing, right? When I think, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing this part great. I'm in Helen's communication class right now, and I'm like, I could do that better, right? So there's this kind of element of always growth. And I really want to actually kind of caveat this part of the conversation. This is very related to how some of us might be feeling with the pandemic. There is, at least for me, some overwhelm of like, can I grow right now? Like I a little bit have been feeling this of like, I don't know if I can, like, I don't know if I'm enough right now. I don't know if I can actually reach that goal. Like I'm feeling like my mind is taken up in all these other areas. And so I want to cut us a break for a second, because we are going to be talking about ways to grow and improve and invest in our lives in a way that it can actually improve the quality of our life. But I also want all of us to give ourselves some grace. So to be able to say, you know, I'm enough, I'm doing okay. And even if there's some things I could work on, I don't have to work on every single thing right this moment. That this is a growth process and it's not a perfection process. And so if you need to give yourself some space today and you're not really ready to take on a huge challenge, take a small one on. I just want to give everyone permission to grow in the way that's actually going to help them today. So thanks so much for that comment. I really love that. I'm going to share a slide deck so that we can start talking about this intentional investment process when in regards to this type of preventative education. And again, this first slide here is really just a hello, this is me. I really love the work that I do, and I think a lot of us already are doing things in this vein, and I want to just kind of give a little bit of extra kind of advice and ideas of how to continue really investing in your relationships, and not just investing, because we all have relationships. And I really love how we were talking about, okay, so think about that special person in your life. Whether or not you're thinking about, you know, a parent-child relationship, you're thinking about a romantic relationship, you're thinking about maybe a coworker or a friend who you're very close to, or a friend who you're having a hard time with, or someone you live with, or whoever you're thinking about. I want you to think about how you can not only, because you already are investing in this relationship, you're spending time on it, you're probably doing fun things with them, you're investing. And I want us to kind of frame this in this way of, are we doing so intentionally? And how can we make our intentions a little bit more specific? So that's where we're going to start. Is I want you all with your piece of paper, pull that out, and I want you to write down, what are you hoping to get out of this presentation? So our time together, just the next half hour or so, what do you want to get out of this? Now, while you're wrapping up that thought, I want you to write, I'm going to give you a prompt. My prompt is, what are you planning to put into it? So this is where intentionality comes into play. So I want you to write another thing. You're hoping to get something out of this that you've written down. I want you to write down, I will, or some type of intention. Doesn't necessarily have to start with I will, but what are you planning to put into the next half hour so that you can get what you hope to out of it? You might put your phone away. You might write notes. What might you do to get out of this what you hope to get out of it? Just set a couple little intentions, just a small goal for our time together. We kind of know that I'm going to start talking about how important relationships are, right? That's what my topic is, and that's where we're going with this. And I want to talk about why relationships, why is this such a passion for me? Why does everybody kind of talk about, relationships and communication? Why are we talking about this? Why is it such a hot topic? But first, before we do that, I want you to think of this question. We kind of know what the answer is going to be, right? But if you were to invest right now in your future best self, I want you to just reflect on where would you put your time and energy? Maybe you already have a bunch of goals in lots of different areas of your life. Maybe you have goals in your career, or you're working on your education. Maybe you think if you invest in your wealth, that might be a great place to put your time and energy. Wealth or fame, success, spirituality can be a great place to invest. Our health, our having fun, recreation, our family life, friends, social. Maybe Netflix is a great place to invest some of your time. I know a lot of us would probably spend a little extra time on Netflix or social media. But is that a great investment in our future best self? No, none of these things are good or bad or right or wrong. We don't get to label things like that. Really, these things are fairly neutral, and some of them might be better investments than others. And some of them are going to be great investments for a Friday night, and others are going to be great for a Tuesday morning. Okay, so it's okay to invest in each of these things. But if you want to think about what could you invest in your for your future best self, where do you think you can put your energy, your time, maybe even your money to have that future best self? And we're going to look at what the research actually says by watching this real cute little clip. It's only a couple minutes long, and it is based off of a really amazing study that's been done, and it'll kind of describe this study. And this is kind of also based off of a TED Talk some of you may be familiar with by Robert Waldinger. So we'll spend just a minute here watching this clip.
Would you first, can you hear me all right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Would you first read me what the whole screen said? Because it's partly covered. Maybe I could just shut down this window here. Oh, okay.
Did you need the last slide?
Yeah, if I could.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you asked. We have a lot of liberty just because we're such an intimate class. Is this the one you were looking for?
The one right after it.
The only one I showed after it is just this one.
That's the one.
Okay, perfect. This is just a video clip. So we'll show this. We'll take a minute to watch this clip.
Yeah, I just hadn't seen what it said on the right. Okay, I'm good.
Gotcha.
Have you ever heard of the Harvard study that ran for 75 years to assess what makes us happy? It's a revolutionary study in psychology. It followed the lives of two groups of men for over 75 years, and it now follows their baby boomer children to understand how childhood experience reaches across decades to affect health and well-being in middle age. So what keeps us happy and healthy as we go through life? If you think it's fame and money, you're not alone. But according to psychiatrist Robert Waldinger, you're mistaken. As the director of a 75-year-old study on adult development, Waldinger has unprecedented access to data on true happiness and satisfaction, and he lays it all bare in this TED Talk.
What keeps us healthy and happy as we go through life? If you were going to invest now in your future best self, where would you put your time and your energy? The clearest message that we get from this 75-year study is this: good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. We've learned three big lessons about relationships. The first is that social connections are really good for us and that loneliness kills. Second big lesson that we learned is that it's not just the number of friends you have, and it's not whether or not you're in a committed relationship, but it's the quality of your close relationships that matters. And the third big lesson that we learn about relationships and our health is that good relationships don't just protect our bodies, they protect our brains.
So, the biggest predictor of your happiness and fulfillment overall in life is basically love. Specifically, the study showed that having someone you can rely upon helps your nervous systems relax, helps your brain stay healthy, and reduces emotional pain. The data also clearly found that those who feel lonely are more likely to see their physical health decline earlier and die younger. It's not just the number of friends you have, and it's not whether or not you're in a committed relationship. It's the quality of your close relationships that matters. It doesn't matter whether you've got a huge group of friends or if you're in the perfect romantic relationship, it's the quality of the relationships that count the most. How much depth and honesty exists within them, the extent to which you can relax and be seen for who you truly are. This is a great reminder to prioritize authentic connection with others, because the data is clear that, in the end, you could have all the money you've ever wanted, but without loving relationships, you won't be happy.
All right. I love that video clip. I think it's a really great and concise way to kind of explain this concept. And there's even more research on this. There's loads of research on relationships, and that's really what I base all of the work that I do on. And this is by Susan Pinker, and she bases a lot of this research off of many different universities who's done things like this. And what we find is the evidence is very clear that a long and happy life comes not from just having the right genes or a lot of money or even, certain health factors, having the healthiest of lifestyles. But what actually predicts our long and happy life more than anything else is having deep relationships and regular interactions with each other. So this is, even when we're thinking about, how you're taking care of your body with exercise, even more than whether you quit smoking, whether you quit drinking, especially in unhealthy amounts, even when we're thinking about cardiovascular problems, all these things that we absolutely know contribute to how long we live, very big predictors of how long we live. There is nothing more predictive of our length of life than our relationships, the quality of them. And that's not just the length of them, but the length of our life. It's also predicting our long-term satisfaction, how happy we are, how fulfilled we feel. There's no other place except for in healthy relationships where we get the most character development and fulfillment. And so our top two things that we're kind of looking for to help us lead a happy and long life, number two are close relationships. Those deep, meaningful relationships. And we kind of know this, right? This is where when we're lonely and we're stressed, all these other factors that are affected when our relationships aren't going well, or we don't really feel like we have a lot of meaningful relationships, that affects our body in a way where our emotional health, our mental health, and our physical health declines sooner. We know that. Now, the number one predictor, more than anything else, that actually impacts the length and happiness of our life is what we call social integration. Social integration is how connected you are with people that you're not necessarily close to. So not just the strong bonds that are important, but your acquaintances. Do you say hello to the person who delivers your mail, the grocery clerk? Are you having a conversation? I've noticed myself during pandemic times going on more walks. And on said walks, you're kind of walking and someone might be walking toward you, and then you kind of veer and you go to the other side of the street, right? And there's this like new social cultural thing that we do. I've also noticed myself, people are a little bit more out on their lawn lately, waving and saying hello more than I would have, right? And this is an interesting kind of phenomenon that I'm seeing is, are you going to the grocery store and feeling like, man, I haven't talked to anybody like all day? And so I'm going to look at someone and I'm going to smile underneath my mask. And they're not necessarily going to really see it, but you can feel it. People's eyes change when you're giving them energy, when you're giving them emotion. And so are you having those interactions with people? That's our number one predictor of a long and happy life. Our two biggest predictors are the quality of your relationships and the regularity of your social interaction. That is maybe I don't know if anybody has heard that before. I've been very familiar, but that has kind of been a mind-blowing thing for me, where when I learned this, I want to step it up a little bit more. Say hello to my neighbor when they're walking in the door, when I just got home and getting out of my car, right? Start working on some of those things. That's something that you can do all the time. It's a little tricky right now with pandemic because we're trying to stay far away, but you can still really integrate. Leave a little note on somebody's car, right? Or just you can do little things to socially integrate. And so then to remember, especially as you age, as you get older, to keep these integrations up. The study that really has shown this, Susan Pinker, she took her research to Italy, to this small island off of Italy, and found that these people, there are more people over 100 in that part of the world than almost anywhere else. And kind of the reason being is because of their quality of their close relationships, the social integration. Not necessarily that they're positive attitude, they're all eating tons of pasta all the time, right? Like those are not the biggest predictive factors. Do you feel loved, taken care of, like you belong as your authentic self? Super important parts of our lives. And so what Sarah Pinker says is build your village. We don't necessarily get to choose the connections that we have when we're first growing up. So some of you may or may not have ideal circumstances in your family background. The big reason why I got into the work that I do is I come from a fairly dysfunctional background. And I realized I didn't want to do that kind of thing in my future. So I'm going to need to get some extra resources so I can break some of those chains of abuse and move forward with some healthy relationships, build your own village. And so you have power to do this, but to be able to build your village, you need some extra resources. There's a comment. I can't see everybody, but I do see your hand.
I was just going to say, I was reading Timothy Snyder's book on tyranny, and he was talking about social well-being in there. And one of the things that he said that's really, really important in order to prevent tyranny and in order to have good social cohesion and to be also emotionally healthy, he did say that eye contact and small talk. I mean, most people, they really downplay the importance of small talk, but he said just small talk in the grocery store with whoever's there and looking them in the eye is huge, because in tyrannical places, the first thing that goes is eye contact and small talk. It all just turns to, nobody trusts anybody, so they don't make eye contact and they don't have small talk.
Well, and I really love that comment. I'm currently reading Man's Search for Meaning. And that is, there are some kind of threads of that, is losing that eye contact, losing that social connection, kind of just fighting for life rather than still connecting, right? So that's a really important thing, is your masks don't cover your eyes. Look at people, give them your energy. That kind of connection is absolutely so important. Thanks so much for your comment. So we've got to regularly and actually really actively invest, because we know that the key to a long and happy life is the quality of your connections. So what can you do to actually work on your relationships? And I'm going to give you some professional recommendations. We say when things are, good in your life, just you're having a normal time, 8 to 10 hours of active work on your relationship. So fill in the blank: your parenting, your romantic relationship, your healthy mode of dating, or whatever it is that you're working on, whatever relationship you might be prioritizing, to spend 8 to 10 hours a year investing on active work on that. I'll give you some examples of what that might look like. Therapy, coaching, right? And these two things are different. Therapy can be especially helpful dealing with stuff that has happened in the past. Coaching can be especially helpful working towards skills in the future. Of course, there's absolutely some overlap. So getting into things like books and podcasts. You can read a couple books in 8 to 10 hours, depending on the book. Podcasts can sometimes last a long time. This can be a great thing, is every year you are going to find a really good research-based podcast, and this is going to be something that you listen to, in the car if you're driving somewhere, right? I really push research-based because there's just a lot of information out there, and some of it's honestly garbage, okay? You can get on YouTube and find a lot of really ridiculous stuff that people don't have any real standing for. So make sure that when you're looking things up, it's research-based, hopefully even evidence-based is even better. And there are professionals who can guide you to really good resources that way. Follow social media experts, not just anybody. Follow really good programs. Gottman Institute is one of my favorite programs to follow. I'll tell you more about who I follow in a bit. There are some really good TED Talks. There's some really good webinars. You can sign up for a lot of these things. Some of them cost money, some of them are free. I'll do a little bit of advertising for Helen. I know she has a communication webinar coming up, I think starting September 14th, and I think it's accessible to the Oasis group. I'm in hers currently. I really love it. I'm going to be doing some workshops as well in the future. I would love for you to come to those, as well as other classes. There are really good programs. Utah is actually a great state for this. There's a lot of funding that comes in that your tax dollars are paying for to promote healthy relationship classes based on good research. Take these classes. There are parenting classes, there are couples classes, there are premarital education classes where you can get discounts on your marriage license, tell your friends. There are classes talking about smart dating and everything in between. Marriage retreats is another really big one. You're gonna be probably spending a bit of money on that, but that can be, and they're probably not really active right now, but you think about, okay, maybe a 5-year anniversary, let's go on a big retreat. Let's do some investment. Now, this is our recommendation when things are smooth sailing, is investing this 8 to 10 hours. When there's really not a lot of bumpy roads, there's not a big rocky time, nothing really bad has come up. When there is extra going on in your life, you're really struggling, you're going through a maybe traumatic breakup, you're having some really big marital crises, or you have a kid who really, it's not going well. When you're parenting, really an outburst situation. When there are extra troubles, obviously invest more time. Go into some specific niches on the things that you're realizing are some problems. This is especially when I start recommending going and seeing a professional. You can do a lot of work just on your own and do a lot of intentional investment. But when things do get a little bit more rocky, absolutely go and see a professional. Now, if you want to see a professional to do some fence at the cliff, some preventative work, I absolutely recommend that as well. So the same question, where are you going to invest your time and energy? One of the things that I really like to think about is carving out time in your life. We are very busy people. You have a million things going on, and when you don't have something going on, sometimes we just want to kick our feet up and scroll on social media or binge on Netflix. There's a lot of different things asking for our attention, and unless we actually intentionally carve out time, we're probably not spending time on this stuff regularly. And what we know is that when we spend time on the health of our relationships, we're saving time. You work on better skills in your relationship. So for example, you're working on some better communication skills with maybe a romantic partner or a child. And then you have some conversation that maybe got a little heated or maybe kind of was a harder conversation to have. If you spend time investing in how to do this conversation well, imagine how much time you're saving, not in like the thick of it and the fight of it and having to make amends and all this reconciliation. You're still going to be in both arenas. Like, we're just human and this is life. But when you're spending time really investing in learning how to do your communication well, your conflict management well, your parenting well, your healthy dating well, you don't have to deal with as much aftermath effect of when we don't invest in that. So when we spend time, we save time. And not only do we save time, even in that present, very immediate kind of save time. Well, we didn't get into argument because I had a problem and I came to you with it softly, instead of aggressively, right? That's a skill. And I saved a lot of time because I did that, right? So we're saving time immediately, but we're also saving time, lifetime. We are investing in how much longer that we can enjoy our life, and how much longer very technically that we live. So think about, I want you to spend a minute thinking about where you spend your time. This is not a conversation where I want you to go into anywhere near shame, okay? It is normal that you spend your time in a lot of different arenas. It's normal that you spend your time and you feel like you've wasted it. That's okay, we all do this. It is not bad. But I want you to think about maybe one area that you spend your time where you could probably use to carve some time out of that. What's one area that maybe that's not as productive or useful time that I'm spending there? One example, I did the math today and I realized that 10 minutes of reading per week, you pick up a book, you read an article, you watch a TED Talk, you spend 10 minutes on some kind of investment, that's your 8.5 hours per year. 10 minutes a week, that's all it takes. Now, you can also do a class that's 2 hours a night for 5 weeks in a row. That's your 10 hours, right? You can go to 10 therapy sessions or coaching sessions. That's your 10 hours. There's a lot of different ways to get this in. And this is our recommendation of, the kind of the average, the basic. Absolutely go more than that, right? When you have the time. But when you think about, man, where am I going to fit this in? It takes 10 minutes a week to get the professional recommendation for this kind of time. So think about where you would carve that time out from. And then when you think about, okay, so I think I might take it out of my social media scrolling that I do right before bed. I'm going to put a book by my nightstand. I'm going to sign up for a newsletter, and I'm actually going to read that email and see what they say. Now, there's this idea of being able to investing in kind of this passive way. I'm going to intake some information. I'm going to sit in a class. I'm going to listen to this lady Meg talk about this. I'm going to do the investing. And that's really good because we're kind of sponges. We soak this stuff up and it keeps mulling around in our brains. It's awesome to do some passive investing, kind of watching this YouTube video while I'm cooking dinner, right? Awesome. Now, let's talk about how we can turn some of this passive investing, which is really good for us, into active investing. I need to hide let's see, there we go. And when we talk about this, because here's where the difference is. I like to talk about the process of change or the process of progress. And you first kind of have to know, there's actually something that I could improve on, right? We can always make some changes. That self-awareness is really great. And getting some motivation. So the motivation we've talked about is, if you want to live a long and happy life, this is a great place to invest. So to get some new information, this is some of where more of that passive investment comes in. It's in the way that we're just intaking information. That's amazing. But when we stop there, does anything actually change? The answer is no. And maybe it sometimes, sneaks out, you don't even realize, right? But really where we make good change and good progress is when we implement it into our lives regularly. We actually practice what we're learning. So I want you to go back to your notepad. How are you planning to increase the quality of your connections? We've talked about a lot of ideas. There's way more ideas than I just gave, and some of them have probably come across your mind. I want you to set an intention. I want you to choose something that you will do, make it specific, make it time-oriented, and make it realistic about how you know yourself and what you can handle right now. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what some people might try. Maybe you're going to read a book on healthy relationships every year. That's going to be your 8 to 10 hours a year. And then set a monthly goal to actually practice what you're learning. Well, I read this chapter this month, and I'm really focusing on that when I'm with my coworkers, right? Maybe you're going to go to a yearly marriage retreat or class series. Something I highly recommend. I work with couples quite a lot, and something I highly recommend is regularly meeting with your sweetheart and investing in a relationship, just kind of working on some of the imbalances that are normal that happen in life, and then also doing kind of like a yearly boot camp kind of thing where you actually go and you work actively on your relationship. Maybe if you're more kind of dating right now, you'll sign up for some research-based newsletter or podcast and actually open up the email instead of subscribing and never opening them up. Am I speaking from personal experience? Yes, I am, okay? So there's these things that we do. We're like, oh, I'm gonna sign up for this, or I'm gonna buy this book, and the book sits on the shelf. Or I click interested on this, thing I saw on Facebook about increasing my communication, but I didn't go, right? So what can you do to invest, take that next step investment, actually practice what your intentions are? Yeah, I saw your question in your hand.
I think that for some people, most people, I would say, there's an obstacle when it's not, if they're thinking about just improving themselves relationship wise in general. To me, that would be a gigantic obstacle because I will procrastinate. I will pass by the thing, right? But by the thing that I signed up for, whatever. And so, and I think I'm not atypical. And so when I think about when my relationships have improved or my relationship skills have improved the most, it's always problem based, either in something that someplace where I've already hurt myself, or where I'm currently in the process of doing something ineffective within a relationship. And then it's not, oh, I'm going to go to this, in general, I'm going to improve my relationship skills or anything in general. It's, I'm going to address this particular problem so that this never happens again. And then I don't have to wonder about where my motivation is coming from, or if I'm going to procrastinate it, because no, I am desperate to not do this wrong again. And I don't know anybody that, unless they're genuinely interested in studying relationships, I don't know anybody that's going to just go, oh, I just love relationship books, or I love, I don't know, maybe I'm different, but it's when I have crashed and burned and said, I'm never doing that again. And then I study my face off. And it goes for way more than 8 to 10 hours. It's like constant. And then I'm like, okay, now I know I'm never going to do that again. And now I know what I will do instead.
Awesome. I love that comment because it brings in this process of progress so well. This insight, that sucked, don't want that to ever happen. That's the motivation. So you just seek this information, you really work on it. And that's when, think of that sailboat, that's when the waters are rough, right? That's when you do so much extra time, because you have to fix that. You have to figure that out. You've got to stop letting that hijack your life, right? That is really a huge push for why people actually start investing in their relationships, is when things get rocky. I want everyone to keep doing that. We do that. I also want people to, on a regular basis, so what a professional would recommend, just like the way that how to keep your body healthy is, eat well and you exercise and you get adequate sleep and you take care of yourself, all of those, you wash your hands, right? We know how to keep our bodies healthy. And how we keep our relationships healthy is when the waters are smooth, when things are smooth sailing, we are still investing. That's the real difference here. Yeah.
So the other thing I'm thinking about is I can see in small ways where like in my relationship with Marcelo, there's something that needs a tweak. Right now, that's not an emergency, because we never collect baggage. Like, as soon as we see there's baggage, any baggage sitting there, I'm like, that shit's getting cleared out right now. Like, and so that's the ongoing. Do you know what I mean? It's
right.
Like, I mean, in the past, it's been, okay, I saw, I crashed and burned, I'm never doing it again. But now it's like, I see one piece of shit on the floor and I'm like, we're dealing with this immediately. And that's how, I mean, it's like problem based. Do you know what I mean? Because problems constantly come up, little things constantly come up. Not in the relationship necessarily, but just in life, where we go, okay, how do we deal with this little piece of crap that's right here, kind of thing, and that keeps you motivated, because you're like, oh my gosh, there's a piece of crap.
Right. And when it's small, right, that's where we want to focus. Now, when things are big, obviously get some big help, get some big resources. But when things are just like, oh, I noticed this little thing, I probably could get better at that. That's the time to do the work before that grows.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's kind of like what we just push in preventive education, is that absolutely go to education, learn skills when things are really crappy or when things are really hard. Obviously, of course, absolutely. Also, when it's smooth sailing, to get this under your belt, to learn it when things are good, because you're able to kind of integrate it a little bit better when things are good.
Well, people are lying. They're lying. When they think it's good, they're lying. They're in denial. They probably have like 5 or 6 pieces of crap sitting on the floor right now, and they're stepping over it and ignoring it. And they don't realize that it's crap. So that's the thing. I don't think there is any smooth sailing ever, right? People that say that, they're lying. They don't, or they're in denial. They don't know. And so,
sometimes we just don't see, right?
Yeah.
And that's really normal. And so this is part of the having that insight, learning. You can't do better until you know better. And so, you read some article, I've never thought about it that way. And I'm doing that in my life, and that was probably a tiny little piece of crap, how you explained it, that I've been stepping over because I didn't notice it was even there. So that's part of that preventative.
they're not asking themselves in the moment, is this the relationship I want? Like if they're asking themselves, is this optimal? And they can, and they're honest with themselves and they go, gosh, it's not quite optimal. Sometimes people are afraid to address that or to even say, why isn't it optimal? Why am I lying to myself about this being optimal when I really want something else out of this or something more, and I think that's the red flag right there. Maybe I'm
Awesome.
super nitpicky, but
no, this is really good, and it's really great that you're thinking about it so intentionally. That's what I love about your comments. So kind of
here, Meg. I just wanted to talk to everyone here. I really like the interactions we've got, but I want to make sure that Meg can get through the rest of her slides. We're already at 2 o'clock, so if Meg is willing to stay after and address questions and do more comments, that's great, but let's let Meg hit all of her points, if that's okay.
So I do want to kind of wrap up. I think where I'm going to go, what I want to share with you guys next are just some of my basic recommendations. Maybe a couple places where you can start. You can write this down on your intention list. So I have a lot of favorite resources when it comes to conflict management, when it comes to communication. One of my favorite researchers that I follow very closely is Brené Brown. And this is hugely related to authentic connection. And that's probably, I think, what I'm going to kind of end on is, and I can send this resource slide. I have loads of more resources. I can send that out. We can make that accessible to everyone in Oasis. But just kind of take a look through some of these different things. This is kind of a starter pack of if you're looking in specific areas just with conflict management, communication. And then obviously it gets more and more specific when you look at a specific type of relationship. Now, what we talk about, one of the little things that was said in the Harvard, the video clip we watched about that Harvard study was about these relationships. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And the quality really relates to our authentic connection with other people. So are we just friends with them, or are these the people who have our backs? Are these the people who we can go to when things are hard? And are we in a position ourselves to open up with them in a way that's healthy and safe for both of us? Now, I want to share a couple little tips or guidelines on communication of what this looks like. There's loads more research on this. I do a workshop just on these 3 topics. But there's 3 real big guidelines with communication to both understand each other and be safe about pacing your depth of connection with other people. This is especially when, especially when you're building a relationship with someone. The first idea is about mutuality. So this is creating a balance between speaking and listening with a person. Are you the kind of person who takes over the conversation, or are you the person who sits there and you just you're really good at listening, you hear everyone vent and you don't really have an opportunity to show up? Well, this is part of learning who you are on this spectrum and being able to be more assertive if you're the one always listening, And if you're the one who's really good at talking about how you think and feel, to say, oh, I think I've been talking for a while. What do you think about that, right? And to kind of create some amount of balance. This does not mean every conversation has to be a 50-50, but it does mean your relationship as a whole should have this sense that both of you are contributing and both of you are caring for the other. And we call that mutuality. Reciprocity is being able to have boundaries and also openness when you are learning each other, knowing when it's appropriate to open up and when it's important to hold back. We get into tricky situations with this when we're trying to build relationships because some of us are a little scared to open up, and so we just keep it to ourselves. And some of us want to be known so badly that we tell anybody our deepest, darkest secret. And this is learning the balance between sharing with those who have earned the right to hear our story, which is the way that Brené Brown talks about it. I think that's a really important concept of letting people earn that trust, seeing if they're willing to open up at the level you will open up before you go deeper into sharing about your own personal self or asking about them if you haven't opened up quite as much as they have, right? Having that be reciprocal. Another really big guideline for communication is about congruence. So this is doing and saying what's actually going on the inside. Sometimes we wear a mask in our lives, and the things that are going on the inside are not coming out, whether I'm fine, we're being sarcastic, or I'm just tired when something's really going on. Now, we want to be aware that it's important to only share with the people who've earned the right to hear a story. You don't want to be necessarily telling everybody in the whole world the worst thing that just happened to you earlier today, okay? But it's really important that with those relationships that you've built that trust with, that you show up and you let yourself be seen. Another thing that Brené Brown talks about. So that's part of this congruence, is allowing your authentic self to come out, even if you fear maybe some lack of fitting in, because that authenticity will drive belonging. So that's a really important concept. And so I think I'm just going to end there. That's kind of my little taste into what I do for workshops. So I do a bunch of different classes for Healthy Relationships Utah. I can give you that resource as well. I also am a coach and I do workshops. And so some of the workshops that I do is communication, really diving into those 3 guidelines for communication. I do a bunch of different classes on or workshops on dating. So how do you avoid red flags? What are red flags? What gets in the way of avoiding them? What are green flags? I do another class on that. I do classes for like partner classes for maybe romantic relationships or friendships or parent-child on communication and learning how to actively understand each other rather than just wanting to get your way. So I do different classes like that. I can list those workshops somewhere accessible to the group, or feel free to contact me with email or my phone number. I'm always available. And I think I'm just gonna kind of wrap it up there, and thank you guys all for coming and for inviting me to have spoken here. I know that the relationships are just the crux of life. There's nothing more important that drives our happiness, how long we live, and our fulfillment. And this is why I do the work that I do. And I hope that you guys will take those intentions that you set today, really apply them into your life, make a difference in your life. If you've already been investing in one way, add something small onto it. Do it in a way that is actually more effective for your life to increase your chances for happy, successful relationships and a happy and long life. So thanks so much, you guys. I really appreciate being here.
Thanks so much, Meg.
Hey, Jeff, go ahead and unmute everyone so you can give Meg a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Meg. If anyone wants to hang out after the meeting and have a conversation on what they've heard today, or if they have any questions, they're free to do that. Let me go ahead and just wrap up here with some final announcements before I pass it back over to our instrumentalist, our performer, Holly. Wow. Oh, oops.
That's all right.
Oh boy. Okay.
I forgot my sister's name the other day.
And my wife actually just pointed out I was apparently I said today was the 19th. It is not the 19th. It is the 16th, everyone. Sorry for the confusion. Here we go. And okay. Okay, so thanks again to Meg Griffiths for her talk on healthy relationships, intentionally investing. Next week's topic, we're actually going to hear from two young upstarts named Elle and Bailey Harris. They've both done various Kickstarters. Elle has done a book called Elle the Humanist, and that is a book for children who don't necessarily identify as any particular religious background. It shows how they can have conversations with their friends about like, yeah, we have the same morals or the same things we value. And then Stardust, or Bailey, she focuses more on teaching young children about origins of the universe, origins of the earth, how evolution works. And it's very interesting. These two worked with their dad, and Elle has a foreword done by Daniel Dennett, and Bailey has a foreword done by Richard Dawkins. So this will be a really great one to bring your kids to. They've been doing presentations for the humanists groups, and I think not only are the topics of their books engaging, but it's going to be an engaging conversation for kids who want to find an outlet to let their creativity shine and get started on the right path there. Let's see here. So these are all the links you can go to see us online. And if you want to give us a donation, it would be much appreciated. And you can do that at paypal.me/Utah Valley Oasis. And you're not PayPaling me, you're PayPaling a nonprofit organization. Our funds are only used to pay for the essentials. No one here gets paid. And finally, if you have questions about meetings or Oasis, feel free to reach out to me or any of these other wonderful members on the board. And Holly, take it away.
Oh, thanks very much, David. This song I wrote, I've sung it a bunch of times for Oasis, but I wrote this when I was having I had done something in a relationship, and I thought that the friend was never going to talk to me again. So I was driving and crying and praying, and I stopped along the side of the road, just because I couldn't see anymore because I was crying, and I just kind of got quiet for a minute, and the thought came into my mind. I could hear this friend say, "Just trust me." And I'm not accustomed to trusting, because usually if there's awkwardness or something bad in the relationship, I'm in a panic, because it means the person isn't going to talk to me for weeks or something like that. Not now anymore, because I don't put up with that garbage from anyone. But at the time, I was really panicky, and so I heard her say in my head, "Just trust me," and I was like, "Wow, what a novel idea!" And so this song came out of that. I went home and wrote it. Is that coming out all right? I heard your voice in my mind. You said, "Trust me," and I do. Those words of comfort came to me when I was feeling blue. Sometimes you need your space, and it's something you can't say. Sometimes your heart is breaking, and you need some time away. Well, space and time are what I've got, and I'll give it all if you need a lot, 'cause I trust you. Baby, I trust you. How much time will go by before I see you again? How long until I hear your voice just calling me a friend? Well, it doesn't matter anyway, 'cause I give this gift to you. I'm as much your friend these grayest days as when our sky was blue. Yes, space and time are what I've got, and I'll give it all if you need a lot, 'cause I trust you. Baby, I trust you. I see I've hurt you, baby, and maybe I'm seeing it too late. But I'm learning how to listen, and I'm sorry for the wait. Next time, I see I've hurt you, baby, and maybe I'm seeing it too late. But I'm learning how to listen, and I'm sorry for the wait. Next time I have a friend like you, I'll remember what you taught me. No, you never wanna hurt me, baby, that's something that I know. But sometimes the truth hurts anyway, so I'll hurt then let it go. If goodbye is what you'd have me say, I'll grow some wings and fly away. I trust you, baby, I trust you. Yes, space and time are what I've got, and I'll give it all if you need a lot, 'cause I trust you. Baby, I trust you. Thank you. I have to say that I dropped that relationship with that person afterward because she was a narcissist.
Sometimes that's how that goes.
Sad
Very
ending.
good. Thank you, everyone. Jeff, you can go ahead and end the recording, and if anyone wants to hang out and talk, it's up to Jeff's discretion.